राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण जय राधा माधव राधे जय राधा श्याम Sundar Radha, Shyama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. So before I begin, I beg the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and kindly bless me so I can speak something in glorification of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita and apply these teachings in my own life and inspire all of you to continue in your journey of bhakti. Thank you so much. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwahanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again, we will start our Bhagavad Gita. We will continue our Bhagavad Gita study. Today we will be discussing chapter 2, text number 11. But since it's been a couple of weeks, we haven't heard about Bhagavad Gita. I thought to start from the scratch by discussing relevance of Bhagavad Gita today, and then we will discuss Bhagavad Gita text 1.1 to 2.11, how the journey flows from in Bhagavad Gita. We'll summarize a little bit. We won't go into too much of details, but we'll touch upon some very significant points. And then we will discuss what the text 2.11 teaches us. So hopefully that's okay with all of you, and so we'll continue our journey for today. So relevance of Bhagavad Gita today, one can question, why do we need Bhagavad Gita? Why, like Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago, any science, any book of knowledge gets updated every few years. technology gets obsolete very quickly. So how is Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken about 5,000 years ago, still applicable today? And why do we need it? The science and technology has provided so much comfort and prosperity. So, why do we need it? So this question is basically based on a premises which only thinks about our external being. So we tend to neglect what is more important, which is our inner being or inner self, our own mind, intelligence, and our own identity, which we tend to misidentify ourselves a lot. So science has undoubtedly made immense progress in making our lives more comfortable. There is no doubt, right? Like the facilities that common man has at the tips of their finger was not even imaginable to great kings of the past. Like, we know that, if somebody had to send a message, we hear in Krishna book that, when Rukmini wanted to send a message, she had to send a Brahmana with a message, and he had to travel so many hours and days to meet Krishna, and Krishna had to come back, so. But right now, if you want to send a message, we don't even have to type anymore. We can even speak our message and gets transported, right? So it's like lives have been made so much more comfortable, so much more easier. There is no doubt about it, by science and technology. Yet this advancement alone is not sufficient, right? Because it makes us, it doesn't complete us, it doesn't completely satisfy us or make us truly happy. So we have two dimensions of our own beings, right? Like we have inner being, inner self, and the outer self. So the science can make things better, but the spirituality or Bhagavad Gita can help us make people better. So we may have so much advancement in science and technology, but if we don't have the proper understanding of how to use it, where to use it, then the same science and technology can be destructive, right? Knife in the hand of a surgeon can be a life-saving tool, but same knife in a rogue's hand can be a life-taking tool. So it's a very simple message, but at the same time very, very important one, because science and technology can give us comfort and prosperity, but it cannot give us peace of mind. It cannot give us satisfaction and happiness that we are actually looking for. So everyone is looking for happiness. Anybody here who's not looking for happiness? Right? That's a universal search, or universally everyone seeks happiness. So Gita offers us other kind of knowledge. So that is why we have to understand that when I first came to Krishna consciousness, the very first lecture that I attended in Ahmedabad by His Grace Jashomati Nandan Prabhu, he raised Bhagavad Gita in his hand and he said that this is the answer book. So if you have questions and somebody is giving you answers, you need to match those answers that are given in this book. Like in India, we used to have board exams, and the examiners who would check the papers would be given the answer sheets. So they would have to match the students' answers with those answer sheets and grade them accordingly. So people have so many opinions about different subject matters, but actually if the answer is credible or not, if one wants to check those answers, those opinions, their credibility, then they have to refer them to Bhagavad Gita. And on the basis of Bhagavad Gita's credibility, one can judge how well those answers are, right? So science can provide us speed, but Bhagavad Gita can provide us direction, right? So if you are stopped at a traffic light I mean, here it doesn't happen, but in India it can happen. You can roll down your window and talk to the car next next to you. Asked him like, how's it going? Where are you going? And the guy says, oh, I'm just driving. So what would you think about that person, right? You would just think that he's a crazy guy. He doesn't know where he's going. So you may have a wonderful car that can go hundreds of, at 100 mile per hour speed. But if you don't know where you're going, what's the point, right? So science can provide means for living, right? The produce that is produced far somewhere gets brought to us in any weather. Like, we don't really care about anything. Like, our life is so much automized that we don't think about the farmer has to work so hard to produce food, and that takes so much care to bring to be brought to the ShopRite or wherever we shop. We just think that the food comes from ShopRite basically. We don't really, we tried gardening this year, but at the same time, it was hard work. Too much rain this year caused a lot of flooding in the garden, and we could hardly get some flowers, not much vegetables this year. So we don't really understand, but at the same time, the science can provide means for living. These means that we need are given to us. But at the same time, we all look for a meaningful life, don't we? This presentation basically is copied from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So whoever have heard this may sound it repetitive, but at the same time, the message is important. So he's a great teacher, so to learn from him is nice. So basically, the means for living are given by science, but the meaning for living, what is the purpose of life, why do we do what we do, is we can learn from Bhagavad Gita. So we know that with meaning, pain can be acceptable, but without meaning, even pleasure cannot be acceptable. The soldiers who fight wars, they take on so much pain, but because they have meaning in their heart, they think that they are doing it for the country. For that they can go through any kind of hardship. But at the same time, if I tell someone that from now on you have no responsibilities, no obligations to whosoever, all you have to do is just sit here and watch comedy shows. Just sit here and watch. So if a person is frustrated and completely sad in life, he might feel happy for a few hours, for a day or so. But after that, what is the purpose? Why would you just continue watching? Right? So we all seek meaning in life. So that's why Bhagavad Gita can provide us that meaning in life. And science can provide entertainment, but Bhagavad Gita provides us enlightenment. So this is something that we all seek, and that's where the human form of life begins, right? So unless we are seeking such higher dimensions, we are not really going anywhere. So that's why we need Bhagavad Gita, right? So now that it's been a few weeks, so we will just briefly summarize how this Bhagavad Gita flows through. So in the first verse, as we heard from Arundhati Mataji, Dhritarashtra inquired from from Sanjaya, right? That what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do at when they assembled at the Kurukshetra? So Sanjaya then started narrating what he was seeing from at the battlefield, what was happening at the battlefield. And if we, I forgot to say that we should have Bhagavad Gita in our hand today. If you can pull up on your smartphone, that will be also sufficient. But if somebody cannot look for Bhagavad Gita in their smartphones, we can provide you a copy of Bhagavad Gita. This will be really handy today. So in the text 2 through 20, when Sanjay is narrating what's happening at Kurukshetra, he's also giving some signs that is very much giveaway of Pandava's victory. So, for example, we won't go into too much of detail, but just the few signs that were present in the battlefield was one was they started blowing the conch shell. The conch shell is the representation of Lord Vishnu, and original Vishnu, Lord Krishna, is present on the battlefield. So that was one sign. Arjuna had, can anyone tell me who was on Arjuna's chariot, on the flag of Arjuna's chariot? Hanuman. I want to ask question to the children so that they can pay attention and feel engaged. So who was present on the Arjuna's flag? Arjuna's chariot flag? Hanuman. Very good. And so that's another sign, as Hanuman was Hanuman was in the part of Lord Ram's victory. Here Arjuna and Krishna, they both were present, and the victory was theirs for sure. So there were so many other signs that Arjuna, that Pandava's side had, that showed that they will become victorious. But at the same time, now Arjuna's mood changes. So text 21, if we see, Arjuna tells Krishna to take my chariot in front of the army, in the middle of the army. Chapter 1, text 21. Senayorubhayor madhye ratham sthapaya mechuta yavadeta niriksheham yotu kamanavasthitan kairmaya sah yodhavyam asmin ranasamudyame. So Arjuna is saying that, O infallible one, O Krishna, please draw my chariot in between the two armies so that I may see who are present here, who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. So here Arjuna is seeing the opposite side as his enemy, right? But in just a few seconds, when Krishna brings his chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona, as we see here, text number 27, 26, 26 and 27, Arjuna starts to shake. Arjuna starts to become bewildered. When the son of Kunti, in text 27, we see that when the son of Kunti, Arjuna saw all the different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Right? So the first reason of Arjuna, now Arjuna gives a series of arguments that why he doesn't want to fight the battle. And the reasons are, Acharyas have given us, are there are 5 main reasons. First one is compassion, as we see in this verse, that Arjuna sees his relatives and friends in front of him and he becomes overwhelmed. Why should I kill my own people? That's a very valid question. And many people have misconception about Bhagavad Gita. I remember when I used to read Mahabharata, someone told me that don't read Mahabharata, it will bring fight in your own family. So these misconceptions are there. So we really have to understand that this compassion that Arjuna had, what was it based upon? And that's why when we see in a few minutes why Krishna speaks text number 2.11 the way he speaks it. Okay, so this is a very important point. It is connecting to our verse today, so please keep it in mind. Arjuna's first argument was based on compassion. And then in text 1.31 through 35, he says, I will not be happy if I killed my own kinsmen, the people whom I am seeking this glory for, they will be all gone. What will I gain out of this? There is no happiness left in here. Not only that, it will be a sinful thing to do. killing one's own family will be sinful thing to do. And then in text 39 through 43, he goes on with destruction of family dynasty would lead to unwanted progeny, and that will lead to loss of culture, which will be like, then he says that narake niyatam vaso bhavati iti anushruma, that I have heard from the authoritative sources that by doing this kind of work, we will live in the hell forever. So that Arjuna is not just giving arguments from his own mind, but he's basing his arguments on scriptures, on authorities. So his arguments are very, like if we just read or hear Arjuna's perspective, it will be very convincing that one should not fight the battle. He shouldn't have fought the battle. But that's why we need. But then, even though he had such sound arguments, in text 2.6, chapter 2, text 6, Arjuna says that I do not know what is good for me, right? He says, nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet, they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So Arjuna's sound reason arguments ultimately led him to indecision. It didn't give him a conclusive answer that I must fight the battle or I must not fight the battle. So here we see Arjuna was basically being torn apart in between his two sets of duties. One set of duty was towards his family, that he is part of the family, he needs to serve his elders, he needs to protect his family. And the other side was his Kshatriya dharma. He was a Kshatriya, he was a warrior, so he needs to fight for the right cause. And the right cause was that the oppressors or the Kauravas side, they were Atatai, they were the aggressors who deserved to be killed. If we see in chapter 1, text number chapter 1, text 36, if we see, Arjuna says that if we kill these aggressors, we will incur sin. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains us that there are 6 types of aggressors. Chapter 1, text 36, purport. According to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. 1 who has given a poison giver. 2, one who sets fire to the house. 3 is one who attacks with deadly weapons. 4 is one who plunders witches. 5, one who occupies another's land. And 6, one who kidnaps a wife. So if we see, all 6 things were done to Pandavas by Kauravas, right? Can anyone give me the example of when Kauravas gave poison to Pandavas? Any of the children want to say that? Yes, Yogesh. Speak a little louder.
One of the Pandavas liked others, so one of the Kauravas thought that if I put poison, then he
Yes, Bhima was poisoned, right? Bhima was poisoned with poison kheer or ladus, whatever it was. So, so that was poison giver, right? Set fire on the house.
Yeah, you set it fire on the house and burn down the golden house, but.
So Lakshagra, right? Yeah, the house of lac was built in Varnavrat for the Pandavas to live, and that house was set on fire. What was the third one? One who attacks with deadly weapons. So, right, that the battlefield of Virat or many other occasions, they were attempted by deadly weapons to then plunder riches. in the when there was a game of dice, they were killed. They were plundered. They plundered their riches, another's land. So they were taken. They were sent to the forest, and then kidnaps a wife. So these all 6 things were done by Kauravas, and they deserved to be killed. So Arjuna's duty was there to kill them. But at the same time, they were his family, so he wasn't sure what to do. And so that's why in the text 2.7, which we heard from Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, very wonderfully Maharaj explained that in the purport of Srila Prabhupada also explains that material world is a place where somehow or other we are put into a situation where we are confused, where we need guidance, where we need to accept someone who can tell us what is good for us. So the text 2.7 is a very famous verse where Arjuna is looking for Shreyas. Yat Shreyasyan Nishchitam Bruhitan me Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. Right? So Shreya means ultimate good. There is a Shreya and Preya. What is immediately pleasurable is called Preyas, and what is good in a long run or ultimate sense is Shreyas. So Arjuna is not looking for immediate pleasure. He is looking for what is certainly good for a long term. So that's why, and then in text 2.8, Krishna might argue with, again, when Arjuna wants to surrender to Krishna as a disciple, Krishna might say, Arjuna, why me? There is Vyasadev, there is Vidura, there are so many other Bhishma, there are so many other great learned scholars around here. Why don't you approach any one of them? Arjuna says that there is nobody else in this world who can relieve me from this grief that I am feeling. Only you can save me. So until we come to that level of surrender, that nobody else but Krishna can take us out from here, not our own mind, not our own senses, not our family, not our loved ones or family or friends, none of them can save us but Krishna. Bhagavad Gita will not be practical for us. It will all be a book knowledge, just like mine. So Bhagavad Gita, to make it really practical, we have to come to the point that only Krishna can save us from this. And there, when Arjuna comes to that point, Krishna accepts the position of a guru very happily, smilingly. So this is where we are now. And so we will just recite this verse. It's a very beautiful verse. So please repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochanan Vashochastvam Prajnavadansh Bhashase Gatasunna Gatasunshcha Nanushocanti Panditaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochanan Vashochastvam Prajnavadansh Bhashase Gatasunna Gatasunshcha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Anyone wants to say it, please? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochanan Vashochastvam Prajnavadansh Bhashase Gatasunna Gatasunshcha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Very good. Anybody else? Yes.
Shri
Shri Bhagavan Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha. Shri Bhagavan Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha. Matajis. Shri Bhagavan Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to say it? Shri Bhagavan Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha. Shri Bhagavan Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha. Very good. So thank you all for reciting this verse. This is very important practice. Along with our chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we should also regularly recite our Vedic scriptures. They have the ability to purify us by themselves. So it's very, very important. It helps our mind to remember Krishna by remembering these verses. So please try and practice that at home. Try to recite verses from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's very, very helpful. So synonyms: Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said. Ashocyan, not worthy of lamentation. Anvasocha, you are lamenting. Tvam, you. Prajnavadan, learned talks. Cha, also. Bhashase, speaking. Gata, lost. Asun, life. Agata, not past. Asun, life. Cha, also. Na, never. Anushocanti, lament. Panditaha, the learned. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Please repeat the translation after me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning For what is not worthy of grief? Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Purport. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, "You are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for age of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition." As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics and sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formalities. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for writing this wonderful purport, right? This is such a wonderful explanation where we can understand that Arjuna's lamentation was basically on the concept of understanding that he was this body and these relatives that he was about to fight, they were his own people. But actually, he was forgetting the most important fundamental knowledge of the Vedas. So Vedas have different grades of knowledge. There is, we have heard this popular term of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? So Vedas deal with mainly dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So dharma, Srila Prabhupada explains that people perform dharma so that they can get artha, which can help them satisfy kama, right? Dharma means religious duties, your occupational duties, or whatever. We perform a job, right? So we do a job so that we get paid. That means we earn money, and with money we can have satisfaction of our desires, kama. So dharma, artha, and kama. But ultimately one has to seek for moksha, because doing this dharma, artha, kama cycle, one comes to a conclusion where he finds himself frustrated. He thinks that, like, okay, I've been doing this, what is the purpose, what is the goal? I was a little boy, now I'm a grown up, I will become an old man, and then I will have to move on into the next life, and I'll go through this cycle once again. So what is the purpose? How do I get out of here? When one comes to that kind of understanding, he goes towards moksha. So this knowledge about the soul, the matter, and the supreme, that knowledge is a fundamental knowledge, and that is most important. So Arjuna's knowledge was based on Artha Shastra and Rajniti, where he was saying that, like, and Kula Dharma, he was all confused about, like, why should I fight this battle? They are all my own people. Why I don't want to do this? But at the same time, he was forgetting that, like, these people that he's worried about killing them, they are not their bodies. Their bodies are always changing anyway. And no matter what he does, whether he fights or not, he will not be able to protect them forever. Their bodies will change. So he has to perform a higher duty, which was follow Krishna's order. It's not that they did not try to make peace. It's not that they chose war as the first option. They tried everything, but at the same time they could not come to a appeasement where they could become there could be a peaceful solution. So the war was the last resort, and fighting for the righteous cause was Arjuna's prime duty as a Kshatriya, and that was Krishna's desire also. So that was his devotional service to Krishna also. So that's why it became very, very important for Arjuna to fight this battle. But to receive knowledge, one has to be humble and one has to be eager. So without that humility and eagerness, we cannot receive knowledge. So if and the wise sounding words does not make one wise, right? Like a parrot can chant Sitaram, but that's not gonna, like Srila Prabhupada very animatedly he describes this, that the parrot can chant Ram Ram, but at the same time when it's caught by a cat, it will only go ta 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 ta, right? He will not chant Ram Ram at that time. So similarly, that wisdom doesn't come just by speaking wise sounding words. So Krishna is telling Arjuna directly that same thing, that Arjuna, your words are sounding wise, but you are not very wise. You are actually a fool, because you are crying for sandcastle, basically. Children build sandcastles at the seashore, but the high tide destroys them, and then they start crying. And the parents don't want the children to cry, but at the same time, they understand that, certain things the children will have to learn just by experiencing them, not by words. They will have to experience it. So Arjuna's wise sounding words were not actually a sign of his wisdom, because he was crying for something which was not worthy of lamentation. And that's why one should walk their talk. So this is a very I like that statement, that what you do speaks so loudly I can hardly hear what you are saying, right? So somebody may talk about poverty in the world, or hunger in the world, and then can explain so many causes and explain in so many ways how to deal with it. But then he hears the news that okay, India lost again Pakistan in cricket match, or whatever the equivalent here is maybe, and then starts to cry about it, and so much so that he wants to break the television. Then what's the point? One point he's talking about removing hunger from the world or poverty from the world, and the other point he's so much attached to the silly game. So that kind of wisdom is not required. That type of wisdom is not going to help us. What we really need, when we can really achieve wisdom, when we walk our talk, when we actually apply the message and really understand. So I just want to, it's very quickly I want to end. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatan Goswami's conversation is very relevant in this connection. Sanatan Goswami is one of, before he became Sanatan Goswami, was the one of the prominent ministers in the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah. And then he left everything. He was imprisoned. By giving bribe, he got released and he left. But when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said something very significant. He says that apnar hitahit kichu na jani gramya vyavhare panditai satyamani. So in Bengali he says that apnar hitahit, what is good for me, I don't know. And in the worldly terms, people consider me a pandit, a very learned man. And I also accept it that I am a very learned man. So that is our condition. We think that we are very wise, we are very learned, but actually we don't know what is good for us. He says that Ke ami kene amaye jare tapatroy iha nahi jani kemone hit hoy. Who am I and why am I getting these threefold miseries? That I don't know. So without knowing that, how can anything good be done for me? I don't know who I am. I don't know why am I suffering. And without knowing that, how can I expect anything good out of it? So that is why Sanatana Goswami says that Sadhya sadhana tattva puchite na jani kripa kori sab tattva kaha ta apani. Actually, I do not know how to inquire about the goal of life and the process for obtaining it. Being merciful upon me, please explain all these truths. So we don't have a time to go through the detailed answers of each thing, but these are the basic inquiries that we should be eager to learn about. Who am I really? Why am I suffering? Why I don't want to suffer, I don't want to be unhappy, but time and again my plans for happiness gets overcome by some way or the other, right? And what is the goal of life? What is how to inquire about the goal of life? That also I don't know. And how to achieve that goal? That also I don't know. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains to him in complete detail all these questions, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us by these answers. By Sanatana Goswami actually knows answers to all these questions, and he is actually asking these questions just like Arjuna is asking these questions to Lord Krishna for our benefit. Sanatana Goswami is also asking these questions for our benefit. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains in short that Jivera Swarup Hai Krishnera Nityadas. We are actually eternal servants of Krishna. And the actual ultimate goal is Prema Pumartha Mahan, to attain love for Krishna. And to attain love for Krishna is by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this, in Kali Yuga, we don't have any other means but to depend on the holy name of the Lord. And when we take to the holy names of the Lord seriously and sincerely, then we can actually experience the truth in this message. This is, as George Harrison would say, that proof of the pudding is in eating. One of my most favorite message that George Harrison gave is in the front of Krishna book. So whenever I try to give somebody Krishna book, I tell them about Beatles. Like Beatles are so famous, so I tell them about Beatles and say that, like, here George Harrison wrote this beautiful foreword for this book, and in that he says the proof of the pudding is in eating. It's not about just making a show. Like, you cannot taste the honey by licking the bottle. If we don't put it into our practice, take time out and actually put effort in experiencing what we are talking about, it's just going to be a good talk. It's not going to be any worthwhile message. So I will just end with one of my favorite verses in Mukundamala Stotra, which is very appropriate for this verse of Bhagavad Gita. Idam shariram parinam peshalam patatyavashyam shatasandhi jarjaram kimaushadhim pritchasi moodha durmate niramayam krishna rasayanam piba. It's also applicable for today's day and age, because we are going through this we are going through this coronavirus pandemic, and in general, it's very much applicable. This body's beauty is fleeting, and at last the body must succumb to death after its hundreds of joints have stiffened with old age. So why bewildered fool, are you asking for medication? I'm a pharmacist by profession, so I must tell my patients, all the customers that come to me, I must tell them this verse. Why are you coming here for asking medication? Actually, you need just take the Krishna elixir, the one cure that never fails. So actually, this is the medicine that can never fail. Niramayam, actually become healthy, actually cure from all medication, all the ailments. Niramayam Krishna Rasayanam Piba. One must drink the elixir of Krishna's names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all kindly paying attention. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dandvat Pranam. Very nice lecture. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
I actually have two questions, if I may. My first question has two parts. As I read Bhagavad Gita and as I try to understand it and try to meditate on it, there are a lot of questions that come in mind also, in addition to what Arjuna is asking and Krishna is answering. So one of the very foundational questions that keeps coming in the mind is, we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when we look at other religions in the world, Christianity for example, one of the first commandment is
Should not worship other gods.
yeah, do not worship other gods, I am the only God. If I look at the key pillars of Islam, Allah is the only God and no one else should be worshipped. Similarly, Judaism and list goes on and on. So this is the first part of the question, that who are Jesus, who are Allah?
Very good question, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
And,
So, yeah, let's take part by part because that will be more. Just like water in different languages is called differently, God is called differently in different languages, different religion. But there is only one God. God by definition cannot be two, right? So Krishna is God, Krishna is Allah, Krishna is Jehovah, whichever religion, whichever language, whichever vocabulary we may want to use. But at the same time, so Krishna reveals himself just like teacher teaches the student according to the capacity of the student, right? If the student is in the second grade, I cannot teach that person calculus or trigonometry or whatever higher maths. So I have to teach him basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, like that. So similarly, we are not saying that other religions, they do not have full knowledge or they do not have the absolute truth, but at the same time it's revealed only up to a certain extent. And in the Bible, Jesus would say that I have so much more to say, but you guys are not ready for it. So similarly, like, I'm not an expert in other religions, nor am I expert into our own Bhagavad Gita, but at the same time, we understand that, like, the other paths, other religions, they are all teaching the same message. One reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, there are so many other, do you find any conflicting message between the religions of the world? Srila Prabhupada said there is no conflict in any message. Ultimately, the purpose of religion is to know God and love God. So if any religion can teach you to do that, by practicing that process, if you can know God and love God, then that process is perfect. So it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes.
And the second part of the question is, are Jesus, Allah demigods, and people who worship them, do they get delivered?
No, as I said, like, it's just different names for addressing Supreme God. It's not they're not demigods.
Thank you. Another question is, I slowly read Bhagavad Gita whenever time permits, and just about to finish understanding the structure, how it is structured. Nowhere close to understanding everything. It itself is overwhelming. And I do have set up Srimad Bhagavatam, which I don't know when I will be able to start and complete. But what is the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam? Is Bhagavad Gita enough?
Yes, Bhagavad Gita is enough, because as we read in the Mahatmya of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the scriptures, and it's in the Shankaracharya says that Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padmad Vinisrita, right? What is the need for any other scripture? The Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Lord Krishna himself. So yes, it is in one sense it itself can be a lifetime study to continuously read Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada would explain that Bhagavad Gita is like the primary study of Vedic wisdom. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is a graduate study so Bhagavad Gita tells you who God is. Then Bhagavatam tells you how to attain God. And Chaitanya Charitamrita will tell you what is God's mind, what God is thinking. So it's the higher level of understanding about God. So so we can talk more about it, but at the same time, Bhagavatam is a detailed explanation of the process of bhakti, and talks about different devotees, how they experienced different situations in their lives and how they applied the Krishna consciousness in a way that increased their levels of surrender to Krishna. So Bhagavatam is also important, and consistency is the name of the game. So we just have to continue doing it every day, little by little. We'll get there. Life will ease up. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So my question was, you have mentioned about the Vedas have dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And what is the difference between moksha attained from the Vedas and moksha attained from our bhakti process?
So moksha attained from Vedas is basically aimed towards impersonal liberation. So as Srila Prabhupada would explain that there are 5 types of liberation, right? Sayujya Mukti is one of them. And most of the Vedas will aim towards that. But Bhakti aims for the other 4. Bhakti aims for the liberation where actually the highest form of Bhakti would not even want liberation. Right? In one of the Gujarati bhajan, Narsi Mehta sings that Hari na janato mukti na mage. The devotees of the Lord, they don't even desire liberation. They are happy wherever they can serve the Lord. So liberation is something that is a byproduct for bhakti. It's not a goal. The goal is loving devotional service itself. Like Krishna would tell gopis that you have done so much for me that there is no reward that I can give it to you. Let your service be itself your reward. So that is our aim also. The service itself is the goal. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.